I'm Carlo, and this is Joseph, my friend.
That's true.
And we're going to be talking about empires. Now, we're not talking about the show Empire.
Nope.
We're talking about history, about the greatest empires, or what it would be the Mount Rushmore of empires in human history.
So, we usually start with what we'd call our non-negotiables, right?
Yes.
So, we will start with one of those, but before we dive in, we've started a new thing where we like to say our number of non-negotiables before we dive in. I personally have 3 non-negotiables. 3 out of the 4, I think, are just, they have to be there.
I might say maybe, for me, it was probably 2.
Interesting.
I think.
All right. I will open with one that I feel like it just has to be... We don't rank them. We never rank them. But to me, it's that next level of clear.
Okay.
And that's the Roman Empire.
Ah!
You have to start with that.
Yes!
You have to start with that. Like, if you think of empires, the first thing that comes to mind is the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And then, from there, I definitely dove into the stats a lot with this one. I do like my numbers. But, there's just so many factors to why the Roman Empire is important. And this one actually was one of the least numbers-driven of all of them. It has the numbers as well, but it has other reasoning too. So, for example, a lot of the Western world is really modeled after what the Roman Empire first did. And they, of course, as we know, they sort of stole from the Greeks a lot. But then, at least in the eyes of our USA forefathers, and then in the eyes of Britain and lots of Europe and a lot of the Western world, they perfected the form of government a lot more and made a republic, because of course Greece was just a true democracy, which is kind of a mess, whereas the Romans really are what popularized and created a republic, which of course has influenced our world today. Not to mention that just everything they did was they actually assimilated the people they captured. So if you were part of the Roman Empire, you usually aspired to be Roman. You thought to be Roman was a good thing. Whereas a lot of the other empires, if you dive into them, they conquered people, but their undoing ends up being that they were just conquered people that were out-militarized. Whereas the Romans out-militarized you and then made you be like, wow, they're awesome. I'm happy to be here, and I want to be just like them, which is really cool. And then, if you consider, it gets a little hazy what the Roman Empire is, because the original Roman Empire was a span of about 500-600 years, but then there was sort of other parts of the Roman Empire that lived for over 1,000 years, 1,500 years, which is just incredible. So it has everything.
Yeah, and I also think of their legacy. Again, like what you said, you think of an empire, and you think of the Roman Empire, and you think of the emperor, you think of Caesar, you think of even with Nero, for
sure.
Just there are so many things, but then also the things that they like. A lot of the current legal system is based on the model of the Romans back then. You think of all the roads. You know, there are many. All roads lead to Rome.
Yeah, as
right?
they say. Yeah.
So they created all of that. Like they made communication or transportation and the means to be able to go from one place to another. They made it easier. They made roads. We have the Roman lettuce. It's a thing. There is a lettuce named after an empire.
Yeah. Are we even... It's romaine lettuce.
It is, if that's what it refers to. Yeah, it's the same. You have the
Roman candles. If we're going this route,
Romans.
What else is named after
the Romans? You know, like when you're a romantic person.
Yeah.
It's the influence of the Roman Empire there.
Yeah. Weren't they like some of the first to give us like plumbing, basically?
That's right. They had the
aqueducts.
Yeah, the aqueducts.
Didn't the Greeks start that, and then again the Romans? I kind of feel bad for the Greeks because I feel like the Greeks are a whole like they're like yeah, you did that, but then this other person came and made it so much better. And there are some exceptions to that. Like in the case of the gods, they just stole them. Like that's just
they just
steal and rename them. So in that case, go Greece.
And we'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are some things that I'm thinking. Well, they did this, and like, wait a minute, no, yeah, that was the Greeks. That wasn't the Romans. But I think also the Roman Empire, they were very good at assimilating the best, or what they thought was the best of each culture, and then just that way they got stronger.
Yeah. For sure. If it weren't for some critical mistakes down the line, they're an empire that feels like it could have lasted just forever. And not to mention, they had just the incredible amount of population that was under them at one time, which was a significant amount of the world. Mm-hmm. And certainly a huge portion of the significant part of the world at the time, because most of the world was kind of off and sort of not centers of where a lot of people were. The Roman Empire covered some of the main centers of where people were, like Egypt and, of course, Rome itself.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I forget what the third one was. I think somewhere in Iran.
In religion, you have the Catholic Roman Church.
Yeah, Christianity, which is, probably on the Mount Rushmore of religions, right? Like wouldn't be what it is without the Roman.
Everybody, we're foreshadowing.
Yeah, that is on our list. So hopefully you watch that one before you watch this one. Spoilers! But, so where would that be today without the Roman Empire? It would be much smaller, probably.
Yeah.
Which we can, there's debate there, but it was
and then
significant.
You had the influence of the language, which was Latin.
Yeah, which influenced,
Spanish.
A million languages.
Spanish, for sure. Spanish, French, Portuguese, Italian, of course.
Yeah.
And Romanian also.
I don't think I knew that.
And but then it just kind of leaked into a lot of medicine. A lot of the terms in medicine they come from the Latin.
Oh yeah.
So
and even animals, they still have the name and then the Latin.
In science, they have a lot of influence as far as language goes, and you think
the most influential language that is not spoken. Today.
How amazing is that?
That's very interesting.
Crazy. Kudos to you, Caesar. Hail Caesar. That's not Hail Caesar. How would they say?
I don't know.
How would they salute the Caesar?
I don't know.
This
feels uncomfortable, though. We could get a little too close to Hitler.
Yeah, we could. It doesn't matter. Anyway, they also...
also Augustus. There's a lot of Roman Empire emperors that are...
The salad! The Caesar salad.
Which is...
made with romaine
an important
lettuce.
Salad. We'll say it's an important salad.
Yeah.
Salad dressings is another one on our list for the future, so I don't want to go too deep into that.
But see, we're just talking about one empire. We haven't gone to the second one.
I know, but this just
if there's doubt that that's an important and should be probably the Washington of the Mount Rushmore of empires, it should be.
Is it the Washington though? Now it's time for yours. Okay. Was that you're also just the most clear?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the second one, I think it's almost and that again, it's just me personally.
Okay.
I would say the Greek Empire.
Interesting.
Greek Empire.
We are reaching into unprecedented territory.
Well,
go on.
I think that, like we just said, the Roman Empire just kind of piggybacked out of the Greek Empire. It came almost right away. And again, my history, it's kind of fuzzy as far as timings and all that, but I do remember studying the Greeks, and then right away the Romans came after them. So again, their influence in everything, even nowadays, still remains. And when I was looking at it, a lot of them, it just territory-wise might not have been as much reach as other empires, but their influence is just outstanding. So you have, I would think probably starting with philosophy, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, all of them Greeks.
But was that during the Greek Empire time? I actually don't know the answer to that.
Again,
I'm
that's,
not sure.
With history.
I feel
and
like
all that.
yes. But also the Greek Empire only lasted like 70 years. So they would all have to be very condensed.
Right.
Or
So
was it
it might
200?
not
I
have
don't know,
been
it's some really
necessarily
small
the
number.
influence of these philosophers because of the Greek Empire, but I'm sure that it helped a lot to expand their knowledge of it. And then you have the Greek yogurt.
Which has nothing to do with it at all.
Hey!
We're just reaching into the food constantly.
Food is an important part of any culture, and we have a yogurt. There's no other yogurt named after any other empire.
I mean, it wasn't named after the empire, though. It was named after who
Is it,
created
though?
it. I don't think so. I don't think yogurt existed way back then. I don't know.
Was
Maybe
it
did.
though?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking the question.
So I'm going with that.
I'm just filled with severe doubt.
All right, here we go. The Olympics.
All right. That's actually maybe the most compelling argument you've that and the philosophers are two very interesting arguments I didn't even think of.
The Olympics?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
it's very interesting.
There you go. That would be my now. My question is, do you agree that it should be in the Mount
see, that's
Rushmore?
why I said unprecedented territory. This is the first time ever that either of us has mentioned one as the first or second one mentioned that another person didn't even have it on their floor.
You didn't have
It's
it?
not even on my floor.
Wow. All right. Very well then.
In fact,
so we have a lot to go.
As I was
still.
narrowing the list down, I'm not even sure it was in it was kind of like in the 7-8 area.
Okay.
Like I wasn't, again, not ranking,
Mm-hmm.
but at some point, I kind of cross out for certain reasons. My reasons for leaving it off was partially the Roman thing. It feels like it's so under the shadow of the Roman that it was hard. And then how short it lasted. I think it was 50 years or 100. It was something really, really short compared to other empires. Although the Olympic argument and those are good arguments. I think culturally, especially for us in the Western world, it makes sense to be on there from some standpoints. But as far as military power and
here's
some
more.
other factors, it had too many strikes against it for me to put it on.
One more that I forgot. And funny enough, he wasn't when the Greek Empire was on, but its influence with the Greek language was so important that the New Testament in the Bible is written in Greek.
That's true.
Even though it was after the fact, right?
That's true.
But they still was, that language was important enough that
For sure. Specifically for that period of time,
right?
It is pretty. It's definitely influential. I would not doubt that.
Okay,
it's the level. Also, another thing that sort of crossed my mind is I feel like when you think of Greece, you think of ancient Greece. You don't think of the Greek Empire. You think of ancient Greece, which doesn't make it not an empire. It was, but the empire part of it was such a brief but profound time that I had to scratch it off my list because of the profoundness of some of the other ones on the list. Which brings us to my number 2.
Okay.
Well, not really my number 2. This was one of the more obvious ones to me.
Right.
And this one is where it starts is interesting because it's by far the most modern day. And it is the British Empire. And my reasoning for this is multiple reasons. One is that at one point they had over 25% of the world by landmass, which is ridiculous. Yes. It is insane. And they also had over 20% of the world's population, which they had the most number of people by any empire ever. But because they're so modern, they have an advantage there. Percentage-wise, I think they were number 2. But for landmass-wise, they're number 1. Yeah. And the British, I mean, without that, we wouldn't have the United States.
Right.
And yes, I live in the United States. But you cannot deny that as far as countries and their relevance today, it's the U.S. and everybody else. Like it's not close, right? Hollywood, all the movies that you're all watching, whether it be Star Wars or Marvel or whatever, is all U.S. Most of the products that you get, even there is a person I follow. She's from New Zealand, and she talks business, and yet she almost exclusively has all of her stuff for like, yeah, no matter where you live, just sell in the U.S. because it's the shipping is cheaper, it's faster, they've got everything under control, and then we have all the resources of just like from the giant landmass. So just the fact that the British Empire birthed the United States is a lot of points in my mind. Then how long it lasted, combined with its sheer size, combined with its modern day relevance, and I think that it would be easy on our list to ignore modern day, because when you think empires, you think of, the Romans with their shields and swords.
I actually,
the British deserves a spot.
Just because of that fact, because of the expansion that they had, which I had forgotten, and just going and reviewing that, I was like, oh man, this is just amazing what they did, because you knew that it was an empire, but you didn't realize how big, how far they
it's
went.
Easy to forget. But they had like India.
But India.
All of Australia.
Like,
they're everywhere. Half of Africa. Well, even
some areas in Asia, they had, I mean, of course, India's in Asia. And, and Australia is in, like, super South Asia.
Well, it's in Australia.
I just made it up, but I think it's just...
So you're saying that, like Pluto, which had its planetary rights ripped from it, you say Australia, get out! You're really just South Asia. You're just an island.
Super South Asia, man.
Super South Asia. Sounds like Super Saiyan.
We're gonna get in trouble here, man. Anyway, all that to say, I do agree.
Yeah, but the Australians have to take a 24-hour flight to get here, so they're not gonna come find us. That's too long of a flight to beat us. Yeah. Like,
oh, you don't need that. That's why we have the internet. They just bring you down.
I
see.
They
shut your internet down.
I see.
Somehow.
Yeah. Dislike. Unsub.
And then all of a sudden, you're gone.
Yeah.
Anyway, the British Empire. Yes.
Does that mean it was on your 4?
I agree.
Interesting. Okay, was that one of your non-negotiables?
Well, see, for this one, I had the Roman Empire
as a non-negotiable.
And then after that, I was like...
So you have one non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Okay. To me, I think I have 2 levels of non-negotiable. I have the Roman Empire, which, like, there is nothing anybody could ever say. I don't think there's any argument against it being just the most clear.
Right.
And then I have the British Empire and one other one that, to me, are, like, that next level of, like...
Yeah.
I don't know how I would elevate anything above these 2.
Right.
Either. Which brings us to your 4th one?
Well, so we have the Roman Empire and the British Empire.
Yeah, we both agree on that.
Both agree on that.
You said Greek, and I don't agree.
And you don't agree.
That's interesting. So I started, but we actually have more information on what you think.
Yeah. So why don't we go with yours?
Twice in a row. All right. I'll go twice in a row. So it's interesting to see if it will match with yours.
Okay.
So this one was an interesting one because it had stats on its side, and I thought it had notoriety on its side. It has some points against it though, but I thought that, for example, with the Greek Empire, it felt like it's doubling down on the Roman thing. And at some point, if you have British, Roman, and Greek, it's like, why is this all in Europe? And if Europe deserved all of them, I'd be like, okay. But if we're going into Asia, I feel like you gotta go with the Mongol Empire. Because, one reason. Well, not one reason. Multiple reasons. One reason is the largest contiguous empire ever created. Is reason number 1.
When you say Mongol Empire, just refresh my memory.
Like, why am I blanking on his name?
Like China?
It included a large part of China or all of China.
Okay, so with all the dynasties and...
No.
We're not talking about that.
This person... What is his name?
Genghis
1 second. Genghis Khan, thank you.
Okay.
Actually conquered a large part, or all of China, I don't really remember. But it spread a long ways, and it was the largest contiguous empire, is one reason for me.
Well, see, that's where I had a hard time because I'm thinking...
How much does that matter? Sure.
I'm thinking of the dynasties also in China, but not considering the Mongol Empire. But they, like, in their own country, they had a lot going on.
For sure.
But then...
But it wasn't really an empire in China, which is why I didn't consider a lot of it.
The Mongol Empire took the Chinese stuff and then brought it, like I'm thinking, for example, gunpowder or the paper, which are very big contributions to humanity.
Sure.
And they came out of China. So how did they come out of China? Was it...
yeah, I see what you're saying.
But then again, so we're talking about empires. That's where I got a little...
empires got a little funky. So I guess this is a good time to like rewind a little bit and be like, okay, what was our criteria? Now, for me, I thought with any Mount Rushmore, you can't have a dark horse. You can't have that thing that like nobody would think of because by nature of a Mount Rushmore, it's not a forgettable president that happened to be great, but we all forget he was great. Right? Like, I can't think of an example of one, but like that's not what it is. Yeah. So some level of popularity was an aspect, which I thought Mongol was towards the top of that. Another thing I thought was influence, which in my mind the Roman Empire scored super high with that. Scored super high with power, which is another factor. I thought power was a factor, and then like relevance to the world as far as like amount that it conquered relative to the world at the time was another one. Now, Mongol Empire for me is by far the lowest scoring for what I felt it brought to culture as a whole. But it's also one of those things where I'm like, okay, but if we take the Roman Empire and the British, obviously, it's obvious that we in the United States would see the influence of that still today because we're in the Western world. And for the Mongol Empire to maybe more have shaped some of the Eastern world would make sense. And since I don't live there, I was like, okay, can't have recency bias with British too much and can't have Western bias too much, which is part of why, despite it scoring very low, in my mind at least in that category, I had to go there because it had the military might, and then another stat, it had 25% of the world's total population, which is unbelievable. I mean, 25% of all people in the world were under the Mongol Empire. Another point against the Mongol Empire is that, unlike the Roman, it was the opposite of the Roman. Nobody wanted to be a part of the Mongol Empire, and that's part of why it fell apart, is everybody didn't want to be a part of it. So it wasn't a great empire.
As soon as they have an opportunity, bam.
Yeah, it was a great empire in the sense of its achievements were vast, and what Genghis Khan did with a originally small army and the way he spread is one of the most impressive human achievements ever. But it also has some downsides. As I have mentioned, which is mostly that people didn't really.
All right, well, that one it didn't even register to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we are really going into unprecedented territory here.
Yes. I don't know how we're going to end this thing.
Yeah, this will be interesting. So we have 3 of mine and 3 of yours now.
Yes.
And we agree on 2.
Yeah. And we disagree on...
one. One of which I considered a non-negotiable. Although as I spoke it out, I realized I didn't really consider it non-negotiable. I think I only have 2 non-negotiables. It's the British and the Roman.
And the Roman. All right, so...
Although it's hard for me to find something I think that I can elevate above... I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what your 4th one is.
Again, it could go either way. I have
a feeling we're gonna disagree again, which will be exciting. It'll be a first time ever that we've disagreed on more than one. Yeah, we've never disagreed on more than one. Yeah, yet,
which is interesting.
It is interesting. We'll see. Here it is.
All right. So the one that I would say would also need to be part of this, and just because of history, bless you.
Thank you.
Just because of that factor that when you said, bless you, empire, that's what you think of. Those are like the Roman Empire. The other one, and it's an ancient one, and I struggle because I have another one also that
we might actually agree. We'll see.
But anyway, I was thinking the Egyptian Empire.
Interesting. So close and yet so far.
The Egyptians, they have the pyramids. At that time, they were like just wiping everything and taking over. But again, it's not. I don't feel like it has to be there.
Do you want my reasoning why I didn't put it on?
Why?
I love Egyptian almost everything. Of all, personally, of all gods that I don't believe in. But like
they
they have the coolest ones.
Like for me as an artist,
just Ra, like all of them are so much better than the Greek gods. Sorry, and obviously better than the Roman gods because they're just a rip-off of Greek gods that are somehow not as cool. They're cooler than Norse gods. They're cooler than all the other ones. They're so cool, and their architecture is so their own. Mm-hmm. So I feel like for cultural impact, the Egyptians up there. But my reasoning against it was it's one of those... I felt about that the way I feel about a lot of the Chinese dynasties. Mm-hmm. Which is, they're debatably not actually empires. Mm-hmm. They're kind of on that line of, like, they conquered lands, but... Are they really... Are they sprawling enough to really be an empire? It's mostly just
They don't have
Egypt.
an emperor. They call it a pharaoh.
I don't care about that as much, because name doesn't really matter.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we say king of the world, right?
The structure of...
It's not emperor of the world. And obviously, if you own the entire world, you're an emperor.
But you know what? When you say I'm an emperor as opposed to a king, it has a different ring.
It does have a different ring.
It's like, oh, you're an emperor.
Yeah. I'm ready for lightning to be shooting out of your hands. But, yeah, so, no, I actually like that choice outside of... That was one that I sort of scratched off as not eligible.
Yeah.
Because I didn't consider it a empire. But if I did, that would have an argument. And I feel like what my fourth one is similar in feel, but it's a.
I think what you're gonna say. I think that. Anyway, I think I know where you're going with it.
Interesting.
Or with your choice. Let's see.
Do you have any more on the Egyptian, or is that?
No, that's all.
Okay. My last one was hard fought. I had so many. For me, the reason I originally thought I had 3 non-negotiables was I feel like I found my 3 fairly quickly, and usually what I do when I find something quickly is I try to find reasons to take it off.
Okay.
Because I don't want just my preconceived notions to influence this. If it doesn't deserve a spot, I want to take it off. And the Mongol, I tried to take off. The other 2 very quickly solidified their place. Mongol actually solidified fairly quickly too, but it was so hard to pick the 4th one until I ran into a couple stats.
Okay.
So, the last one for me is the Persian Empire. Because of multiple reasons. And I'm going to go to my phone because I'm currently blanking on what some of them were. But
that's all right. I was thinking you probably were going to say the Syrians.
Which is very similar. It's very similar. So the reason, when I was reading up, and part of it was anywhere you go with like top 5 empires and stuff from history places, Persian was on there more than I expected. And so a part of that was, it's apparently the first true superpower of the world. There was really no legitimate superpower, military, feared empire.
So they were the ones that started.
They're the ones that started the whole thing. So they're sort of my George Washington, which is why I kind of was like, not really
very interesting.
And I was interested. It was very interesting because different places I was reading said that, and I'm like, oh, that's. I mean, I knew it was before Roman, but there's other like Babylonian and Assyrian, and they're all kind of in there. And like, where does it really become an empire is a little fuzzy, but the reason they said that it's largely the world's first superpowers. They were the first one to really, because Babylonian Empire and Assyrian tended a little bit to be a little bit more the Mongolian sense, which is like conquer and then you got to do what we say. Whereas the Persian they started with the roads, so they had their interconnected roads that were throughout. They also had a mail system, which I thought was very cool. So they were the first to really start implementing that stuff. Now, a point against it is the shortest lasting empire on my list at only 220 years. Because the Roman is anywhere from 500 to 1500, which is ridiculous. The British is a decent amount of time, and especially I feel like New World, less time is worth more because we have such there's just more going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm willing to give more points. And then here's the other one. 44% of the world's population was in the Persian Empire.
Well, yeah, but
which
how
is the
many
largest
people
ever.
were there at that time?
Not that many, but still.
Yeah.
To like number-wise, it's not profound. But if you think of, like, if you think today of somebody having 44% of the world, that's like if the United States combined with like all of Europe, and then said we're not going to stop there because we got to get China in order to have any chance to get to 44%.
Right.
And that, like, it's ridiculous to think about.
I wonder how
it was
many
so hard to
users
say no to
Facebook
some of
have.
those numbers.
You can say, and that's a pretty big empire.
Yeah,
also.
yeah, but even that, I think it's. I forget what it is. It's a lower number than one would think. Partially because the young kids these days don't get on Facebook, which good for you because it's not that great. It's a mess.
So we take it you don't like it.
I mean, it has its place. It's kind of like everything else.
All right, here we go. Like
so,
the Persians gave us rugs also.
Let's go for all those pop purposes now.
Very nice blinds to cover your windows.
Persian blinds.
Do you know the word for blinds in Spanish?
I do not.
Persiana. Persian.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There's actually a very famous song in Spanish called... it's funny because it's called American Blinds. But in Spanish it's Persiana Americana.
Persian American?
Persian American, like American Persian.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's so funny when you think about it. But anyway.
So is Persian at least on your, like...
It's one of those that I considered, but I, again, I couldn't make up my mind on exactly having the four there. Because of many of them had different things that were good. Like some of them were longer, some of them were bigger, wider.
Some of them were more convincing, and
some of them were more influential. So it was a hard one for me.
So you have witnessed history, folks, because we have disagreed on two, which is the first time ever. We have disagreed on one multiple times. We've agreed on all four multiple times. Mm-hmm. We've never disagreed on two. So we did agree on the Roman Empire and the British Empire. Now, Carlo had the Egyptian Empire in there and the Greek Empire. The Greek was the first one he actually mentioned. Yeah. And for me, I put the Persian and then the Mongol. Mm-hmm.
Which I could agree with you too, but I just decided to go with those two. So, what do you guys think about all this mess in history?
Yeah. Let us know in the comments, because that is the only way that you can communicate with us at this time. So let us know in the comments.
I mean, I could give you my phone number, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. Throw up a like. Maybe, if you're feeling frisky, subscribe.
Frisky.
Or
please don't. If you feel like that, don't. or
so
wait until you don't feel frisky and then subscribe.
Yeah, so that you thought through it correctly. You got to think through things. So drop a like. That came out weird. Drop a like. Subscribe, hit that little notification bell so you know the next time that these come up. As you've probably noticed by now, if you've looked at other videos by us, or if you've watched other videos by us, we cover all kinds of categories. If there's something you want us to cover, let us know that in the comments below. We will see you next time.
That one died.
What? Which one?
That one.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we were at 2 cameras only?
Not for that.
How's the battery on that one? Okay, that's pretty good.
15?
50. Oh, 15?
Yeah, I think that needs to be plugged in.
All right, we need